Have you ever been told that your child is functioning at a 3-month-old level even though they're 25? Maybe they're drawn to the same YouTube cartoons over and over and over again, or they may use phrases that seem far below their age level. But what if what they do or say isn't actually reliable? What if your child understands you but just can't show you that they do? And what if there was a way for them to finally demonstrate what they know and communicate reliably? You might have heard about something called spelled communication, a method where a non-speaking person points to letters on a board to spell words. Maybe you've also heard about the controversy around it. Well, let's talk about all of it today. In this video, we're going to cover what spelled communication actually is and how it started. We're going to talk about why it's so controversial and how to know if your child can actually do it. And finally, why sometimes it doesn't work and what you can do about it. Now, be sure to stick with me until the very end because I'm going to talk about the top 3 things that need to happen for spelling to work. Hi, I'm Dr. Dana Johnson, an occupational therapist with a PhD in child mental health and development. I'm also the co-creator of Speller's Method, a method of spelled communication where we understand and believe that those who are non-speaking or unreliably speaking have whole body apraxia, preventing them from showing their knowledge. Speller's Method prioritizes coaching parents because we believe that parents should not have to rely on a therapist or provider to give their child a way to communicate. Be sure to check out the description for links to spellers centers all over the US, resources, and of course the documentary Spellers, which follows the lives of multiple spellers and their journey to find their voice. Now, I still remember the very first time I saw it. I was 13 years old, sitting on my parents' couch while they watched 60 Minutes. On the screen was a petite Indian woman helping her son, who had autism and was non-speaking. He was pointing to letters on a letterboard to spell words. I didn't think too much of it at the time, just that it was this amazing young man who could finally show what he actually knew. Now, fast forward to 2014. A colleague of mine, another occupational therapist, sent me a video and said, "Dana, you need to see this." It was the same Indian woman again, but this time she was working with a student that I actually knew. So I did what I always do. I started to research. And what I found shocked me, not because I hadn't seen it before, but because it was being highly criticized by people in the research field. Now, Google searches said that it was discredited, unproven, and even potentially harmful. But my colleague said something that changed everything for me. She said, "Dana, think about this from a motor planning perspective and what you know about motor development." And that stopped me in my tracks. Because up until that moment, I had believed, like most professionals, that these individuals with complex autism had severe cognitive disabilities, that they were low functioning, and that their lack of communication reflected a lack of understanding. But when I started thinking about it as a motor planning issue and not a cognitive one, everything shifted. Now, if someone has whole body apraxia, meaning that their brain struggles to send the correct motor commands to the body, then of course they can't demonstrate what they know. They might understand everything, but their body simply won't cooperate on demand to respond or show that they do understand. That realization changed my life and my entire career. Because if we can teach the motor skills needed to point to letters and practice these skills until they become automatic, then these individuals can finally access reliable communication. And that's what spelled communication really is. A structured way to train the body to perform consistent, intentional movement so that the person can express their thoughts. It's motor planning, it's neurology, and it's what you do to learn motor skills. So why the controversy? Well, in my opinion, there are 2 main reasons. First, most professionals simply don't understand whole body apraxia. They're still viewing autism through a cognitive or behavioral lens, not a motor one. So when they watch spelling, they assume that the person holding the board is influencing the speller in some way. Now, here's the thing. Those that are able to use a letterboard to have a conversation didn't just start there. They had to first learn the motor skill of pointing to letters reliably reliably. Just like professional athletes don't start at the competition, they have to go through years of practice to build their skills. Second, spelled communication challenges the very foundation of some existing therapies in professional territories. For example, in ABA, the entire model is based on compliance, behavior management, and data collection. It assumes that a person's outward behavior accurately reflects what they understand. If spelled communication is valid, so if a non-speaking person can actually spell their thoughts and express complex ideas, then ABA's entire framework would need to be reevaluated. And that's threatening to an entire industry. And for speech-language pathologists, it's complicated too. The American Speech-Language Hearing Association, or ASHA, has taken a formal stance prohibiting its use. So even SLPs who believe in it often can't use it professionally. But here's my question. How many critics have actually met a speller, had a conversation with one, instead of just reading an article about it? And how many of those critics truly understand motor learning challenges in whole body apraxia? Because when you understand motor control, sensory processing, regulation, and how the body organizes movement, the concept of spelled communication suddenly makes perfect sense. Now, this is probably one of the most common questions that I get from parents, and I realize I get a lot of questions. But for this one, parents will ask, can my child do this? He doesn't even know all his letters. And here's what I tell them. It's not about whether your child can spell words right now. It's about learning the new motor skills. Think about how your child currently has to demonstrate understanding and knowledge. Most standardized tests, IQ tests, academic tests, all require a motor response. They have to point, they have to write, they have to speak. These are all intentional motor skills. If your child has whole body apraxia, that's like asking someone with a broken leg to run a race. It's not that they don't understand, their body simply can't follow through yet. Now, here's another example. If you hired a golf pro to teach you how to play and they just said, go play, you'd be frustrated. You'd expect them to break down your swing, model it, give you cues so that you can build the motor plan. And that's exactly how spelling starts. We're not testing whether they can spell, we're building the motor pattern to point accurately. And yes, they'll make mistakes, they miss letters. Now, you do the same thing when you text. When you mistype, no one assumes you're intellectually or cognitively delayed. I just know it's a motor error, not a cognitive one. So yes, your child can do this. They can learn new motor skills even with whole body apraxia, and they can learn to communicate reliably through spelled communication with the right teaching, patience, and support. Now let's talk about why it doesn't work. Number one, misunderstanding the purpose. Parents may assume that their child needs to know how to spell first, or that they're too low functioning to learn. They might think that my child is too self-injurious or too dysregulated. And because of this, parents often don't even try. Now remember, this is a motor planning issue, and that your child can, with support for regulation and practice, learn to build these intentional motor skills. Don't let those beliefs stop you from trying. Number two, fear of hope. Some parents have been through so much trauma and heartbreak that the idea of opening that hope door again feels unbearable. And I get it. They've accepted this is just how it's going to be. But deep down, they know their child is more than capable. They've just lost trust that progress is possible. This is common, and I commend all those parents who have taken the step to push past those fears and try. I know many of them, and they are now hearing their child's voice for the first time. I encourage you too to take that next step. Number three, assuming speech means communication. Now, some parents say, my child can talk. They don't need this. But can your child have a full back and forth conversation? Or is it mostly short, scripted, one-sided speech? Spelled communication doesn't take speech away, as many might think. It actually expands the depth and the reliability of their communication. Number four, trying it alone without proper guidance. Now, this is a big one. Parents sometimes try spelled communication on their own after watching a video online. Sometimes it works, but more often it doesn't, because this is more than just holding a board. It's complex, and guidance from a trained provider will make things easier for both you and your child. There are so many things that the provider is thinking about when working with a speller. Well, you can learn how to spell with your child. Remember, your or also learning a new skill. It's hard when you're both trying to learn this at the same time together. I had a parent try to start on their own, and they messaged me and said, "Why can't they just poke the letter?" And I responded, "Here's what's actually required of your child to hit one single letter. Regulate and calm their body. Filter out background noise. Engage their core so that they're sitting up straight. Control their eye movements to visually locate and search for letters. Maintain body awareness, being able to figure out where their hand is in space. Use appropriate force to poke. Coordinate visual perception and depth perception." Now, add in factors like hunger, fatigue, sensory overload, or stress, and you can see how complex this really is. This is why guidance and structured motor coaching are so essential, so that both you and your child are confident and regulated to continue to make progress. So what are my top 3 things that need to happen for spelled communication to be successful? Well, first, learn about whole body apraxia. This will help when doubts set in about their abilities. Secondly, consider what you've been told about spelled communication and about your child. It might not be true. They can, in fact, learn and understand far beyond what you've been told. They have a motor planning disability, which means they need to be taught the motor movements first. Third, work with the provider to get started. My biggest concern is that families try this on their own and then give up because it seems like their child can't do it. I've had parents who have done that and then 10 years later come to me and wish that they had worked with a provider because their child would have had a way to communicate long before now. I've included links in the description, as I said, to many resources to help you get started. I have had parents tell me how painful it is to watch their child grow up without a reliable way to communicate their thoughts, needs, and emotions. But here's what I want you to hold on to. You haven't been wrong to believe in your child. Most parents I meet already know their child is smarter than what the system tells them. They've just been told over and over again that what they see isn't possible. Spelled communication isn't a miracle cure. It's a structured, evidence-informed, motor-based learning process. It takes practice, consistency, and the right support, but it's life-changing because it gives your child something they've never had before: a reliable voice. If this conversation resonated with you, make sure to subscribe to my channel because I have multiple videos on whole body apraxia, motor learning, and how to support your child with complex autism. Please comment and tell me about your experience with spelled communication. Or if you haven't tried it, why not? And share this video with other families and professionals who need to learn more about whole body apraxia for those with complex autism. Thank you, and I will see you on the next video.